Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Soshtvi and today we're doing a Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 1 breakdown before Volume 2 comes out tomorrow. I initially wanted to release this video closer to Volume 1 release because I binged all of it on that day itself. However, I did not find the time because I was busy working, and then I thought it's better to just recap all my thoughts before Volume 2 drops so it's fresh for me and the two people that watch me. Anyway, I have a lot to say. If you didn't know already, I'm a huge Stranger Things fan. I started watching the show when season 1 first came out when I was in school. I was giving my boards, and now I'm a 26-year-old adult. But anyway, as always, I really loved Volume 1. I have a lot to say about all the episodes. We'll just go through all the big moments in the show, some theories, some questions, discuss all things Stranger Things. To start off, I want to talk about those first two episodes. Oh my god, the sequence that we got with Holly, her mom, Karen, and the Demogorgon was so good. Genuinely, oh my god, Karen Wheeler, what a badass. She mothered up that Demogorgon. Like, the entire sequence with ABBA playing in the background and everything was so good. The heroics that we saw coming forth from Karen, like, we already saw hints of her being a good mom, even though her character was slightly dicey in like season 3, but we've seen her be a good mom to Mike, especially Nancy. And oh my god, the way she stood up to the Demogorgon, and the fact that, up until that point she has no idea what a Demogorgon is. She has no idea what's going on. She's, like, in her perspective it must be like this strange creature that she's never thought could exist in real life has suddenly come up in front of her, and her immediate response is, yes, I will protect my daughter even though I don't even know what I'm fighting at the moment. Balls. My god, Karen Wheeler, she stole that episode. I do wish though that, like, in the hospital when we're seeing, like, Nancy and Mike being there, I wish we could see them a little bit more emotionally affected by what happened, especially Mike. Like, that's his parents. His dad's in a coma, his mom's barely making it out alive, and you know how serious a situation with Demogorgons can be, and he just seemed like alright, like this was like somebody else's family he was there for in the hospital. I genuinely don't think they've developed Mike's empathy or like his emotional range very well through the seasons, apart from when it comes to like Elle and his friends. Apart from that, he seems very ambivalent to everyone else in his life, including his family, which is very strange. It's a horrifying situation for your parents to be in. I don't understand. Why are we seeing him being so nonchalant, Another thing I really liked was Will seeing Robin be gay. My god, Robin MVP of Volume 1 so far. Holy shit. And I knew it. Ever since season 3, I was like, oh my god, Robin is a fantastic character, and I've been waiting for them to employ her well, which they have. But especially in the season, the way they've used her, oh my god, I'm so happy. I love Robin. She's one of my favorite characters, and I hope she doesn't die. But my god, Robin and Will's relationship was honestly so well developed, and I was wondering how they would do it. When I saw the promo pictures, I was wondering how they would develop this pair so quickly, because we have only a short amount of episodes, but they did it really well. Honestly, I'm very happy with it. Robin, one of my favorite characters, slayed. Happy with that. What I'm not happy with is my actual favorite character not fucking slaying at all in Volume 1. Steve and Jonathan, bro. My god, these fuck ass bitches are fighting over this girl when the world is fucking ending, and the girl could not give two shits about either of them at this moment, to be honest. Like, I don't know why we're regressing the plot with these two men. Like, there was no reason at all for this, to be honest, this entire catfight between the two of them. Why? It really took unnecessary screen time away from other characters or other plot lines. I don't care. I really, honestly, like, they've dragged on this unnecessary love triangle for so long that at this point, even though once upon a time I was Team Steve, now I'm just like, I don't really care, honestly. I don't care. Let all three of them go their separate ways, because this clearly isn't working for any of them. Nancy and Jonathan clearly don't have a very good relationship. Let's be very real, okay? The only reason they got into a relationship is because their trauma bond to begin with. They have absolutely nothing in common. We haven't seen them be actually supportive or be good to each other in a very, very, very long time. And this man thinks of popping the question to her. He wants to propose. Bitch, aren't they like 18, 19 at most? Everything in terms of the relationships between three of them is so off. We don't need it. We really don't need it. I also really like Elle's arc, even though it feels a lot muted compared to everyone else's storyline. I still really liked it. I feel like we're seeing her being a lot more confident and taking charge, and we've seen the development of that happening slowly, especially through season 4 as well. Seeing her be like that is really interesting because I feel like that's very much needed for her personal arc. And it also, like, I feel like she's taking a lot of that from Max. Taking the charge, being confident is very much like in Max's portfolio, and to see Elle now doing that for herself and taking a stand for herself, I love that. Honestly, I really love that, and especially knowing that Max has kind of played a part in setting her on that kind of pathway to stand up for herself. Love that. Speaking of Max, that plot twist I did not see coming, and it's hard to catch me off guard, not gonna lie, it really is. I never in a million years I didn't suspect it, to be honest. I had a feeling we could maybe see her being lost in her mind or something like that. I don't know what I was expecting. I myself wasn't sure what my feeling was indicating, but would have never guessed, honestly. It was honestly a pleasing plot twist. I'm glad we got to saw her. For a second there I was worried that we would see like most of the season of like her being completely absent, but this was a great way to involve her actively as well as be able to explain what's really going on with her coma thing. And her and Holly being a pair, unexpected. I really like Holly as well. The actress is doing a really good job. It's just a little off-putting for me because you've seen Holly be a little baby up until even last season. So she now looks so much more older, and she talks, a lot more I don't know, mature is her way of speaking now. This jump between her age is a little much for me. I understand why they did it from like a production point of view, but from a viewer point of view, I wish they could have kept her being a child, because especially like even then, like the jump between the ages is not a lot. The kid, she's supposed to be like 9 or 10 years old, but she doesn't come across as a 9 or 10-year-old, to be honest. So it's really bizarre. But anyway, coming back to Max, really happy about that. And coming to Max and Lucas, oh my god. Seriously, Steve, Jonathan, take notes from this little boy, okay? Lucas is the real boyfriend. He's the only boyfriend of the show, okay? Let's be so for real. He's a true yearner. My god, their relationship, I want a happy ending for the two of them. Genuinely, they deserve it. This relationship is worth showing. Whatever's happening with Steve and Jonathan and that little trio, please don't waste my time. It's really upsetting because I fucking love Steve and I feel like he's handled everything so maturely. To like regress him back like this, they're either doing this to like, like regress Steve so that Jonathan can come across as like the real deal for Nancy, which I see happening in love triangles all the time. It's one of the reasons why I hate love triangles, is that both people could be like deserving people for the girl or whatever, or even if they're not deserving, because it's very clear that the writers want one boy to shine more than the other. They will simply downplay the other boy more to make the other one seem good instead of just highlighting this person more, and I don't like that. And if they start doing that with like Steve, if they start like degrading his character just to prop Jonathan up, I will come for you, duffers. But I also feel like it's gonna be one of those moments where, which I'll discuss in my theories, where Jonathan will die because he's gonna propose to Nancy. But we'll come to that later. And coming to my next favorite character, Steve and Dustin honestly are on par with each other. And Dustin's arc this season, as heavy as it is, as sad as it is to watch, because he's one of my favorite characters, I really appreciate the direction we're taking. I especially saw a clip of Gen Matarazzo, the actor, talking about his arc, and he's talking about how like he is hurting and he's taking a beating from people because he wants to feel hurt, because he feels like that's the only right way to grieve. As a 16-year-old who's lost for the first time and doesn't have the right support around him, because all the people around him are also children who are losing for the first time, he doesn't know that it can be okay, that it's okay to feel okay, and he feels the need to be hurt to be able to get through his grief. And I feel like they've done a really good job with that this season, as much as it hurts. It's really nice to see. And like the whole Steve and Dustin thing also, it's sad to see them fighting, but it's also really realistic. Like their relationship can't always be positive and uplifting. There will be friction between them, and especially with a situation like this, like we see Steve mentioned that he's tried to help Dustin for a while. He's really rooted in his hurt, and after a point even Steve has to like give up. Like it's a very complicated thing, navigating grief and hurt, right? Like there's only so much you can help the person you love. You'll try your best, but there's only so much you can do about it. But at the same time, you still keep trying. But also, as the person who's grieving and who's hurt, like you want that help. At the same time, there's a lot of like healing that has to come from you internally as opposed to the people around you. And if you internally do not want to heal, it's very hard for you to be able, for the other person across you to be able to do that for you, unless you want it as well. There's always a kind of in between space which is really hard to navigate, and it creates friction between the people ultimately, which is okay. It happens as long as they can get past it, which I'm sure they will. It's hurtful to watch. Like I'm just like, you're my favorite fucking pair. I don't want to see you fighting, but I'm okay with it because I know that like once they come out of this, it's gonna be great. Also, the whole Hopper being shot kind of thing was just, I don't know why we had that. And Hopper in general, like I love Hopper, but volume 1, I don't really think I have a lot of thoughts for him apart from the fact that he's like, he always wants to fucking be like, alright, I sacrifice myself for everyone even though there's no need for it. And we're seeing that yet again. Like after a point it gets tiring to watch, to be honest. Joyce, love Joyce down, but holy shit mama, you need to calm the fuck down. Will is truly getting the younger sibling treatment right now. Like he's being babied, and I can understand why, given the history this kid has had. Rightfully so, you have to be afraid for him and be overprotective of him, but it gets to a point, girl. Like genuinely, Will was right, Robin was right. That's all I have to say. And at times I feel bad for Jonathan. He's not a character I enjoy, and I still have beef with the fact that he took pictures of Nancy while she was undressing secretly and then went on to develop those pictures as well. He's not a character I enjoy because in general also he's pretty vanilla, but I do feel bad for him. Like he really gets sidelined by his own mom quite a lot, again and again and again, and you see that in small ways in volume 1 as well, which is kind of sad. Coming to Vecna himself, Mr. Jamie Campbell Bower, my god, every time I watch Stranger Things, I remember why I used to crush on this man, because he's just so charming with Holly. I'm just like, he's the villain, he's just, yeah. JCB is doing a great job. That's all I have to say. Also, I want to talk more about the frequency they used on Elle. I want to know more about this frequency, to be honest. It's obviously like her magic, whatever, her powers operate on a specific frequency, right? Like we haven't really delved into the lore of it, but we can understand from our own, I guess, that, you know, like we always hear that kind of sound when she uses her powers sometimes. So there's obviously a frequency attached to these powers, and I guess the reverse of that frequency is what hurts her, and that's what they're employing against her. But I want to know, like, this frequency has to come into play at some other point as well, right? Especially in terms with like Vecna, because he has similar powers to her and the other people. So this frequency definitely could be used on him, right? Side note, I also love that they just straight up acknowledged Will's bowl cut. About time. Also, this Dr. K thing, like, who is this fucking Brenner reboot? And do we need a fucking doctor every season? Do we really need it? What is the reason? She was just pissing me off. I was like, of course they have. Like, that's the problem with any kind of supernatural show, movie, whatever, when they involve military. There's always this one dude who keeps coming back in like different forms, and it's just there and annoying for no reason at all. Like, I mean, this might have some reason to play, but at the end of the day, I'm just like, why? Like, who is this Dr. K? We never saw her before. And there's also something very fishy about her. I talk about her more in my theories, but like, I was just like, she was just annoying, honestly. I don't need this. Just show me my people. 8 coming back, Kali coming back. The entire fandom has been talking about this for a while, that they will definitely bring her back. I'm glad they brought her back. I had a feeling, honestly, throughout the entire volume 1, when they were so heavily talking about the fact that they've kept Henry in there, I was like, there's no way Henry's in there, it must be Kali, and it was, which was nice. Erica, fucking boss bitch, also an MVP among the kids. My side notes are just, Yasified Vecna looks like Ultron, facts. And of course, Will, that ending with Will, it's something, once again, the fandom has discussed for years, that Will could have powers. It really made sense. I always had a feeling, because if you really look at the little tiny details throughout the seasons, it makes sense that he should have powers or be able to like fester them from Vecna in some way, and he can. What an epic finale. Like, genuinely, the entire sequence, right from the beginning of like those one shots around the military base, with the demogorgons to like Will manifesting those powers, killing those demogorgons, everything so beautifully done. Chills, I had chills, oh my god, hats off. That's the Stranger Things I expect, and apparently we're gonna get more like this in the finale, so excited. But anyway, let's come to my theories and my questions. So, questions and theories. Initially, I had a question about why Vecna would want Holly. Specifically, turns out he wants all the kids. But even then, why does he want kids? Like he talked about in the season 4, episode 4 finale, sorry, about how like kids' minds can be manipulated very easily. But is that really all the reason? Like I feel like it's pretty obvious, right, that Vecna is like the general of the mind flayer. And I think, if I'm gathering this right, he is trying to either strengthen or like, you know, help the mind flayer reach some kind of like ultimate final boss state. And he's using the kids for that somehow. Like for a second there I thought like the way, you know, the mind flayer took powers from Elle in season 3, it could be that kind of a situation. But at the same time, these kids don't have any powers. So how does that make sense? Like they are manipulating the kids. They want the kids, but for what reason? I don't understand. Like kids are easy to mold, so they're easier to like handle and use for their purpose. But what is their purpose exactly? And the way the kids were caught in that place, it looked very familiar to what we saw happening to Will in the beginning of episode 1 of volume 5 of season 5. So obviously the thing has to be connected. Whatever he did to Will all those years ago is what he's doing to the rest of the kids. He figured something out with Will, and that should connect to the rest of the kids, which also makes me think that maybe Holly might have powers, because hear me out, one of the reasons why Will has powers is because he's connected to Vecna somehow and to the mind flayer. And what happened to him when he was first captured in the Upside Down is exactly what was being done to the kids. They had that thing inside them and whatever. That's how Will was able to draw powers from Vecna. So the kids should also theoretically be able to draw some kind of powers. And in episode 1 or 2 in the hospital, Mike tells Holly that you know, when he gives her the miniature, the figure, whatever, and he tells her like what the powers are of this person, he says that she can cast a dimension door. And in the trailer for volume 2, we see Max and Holly entering this random door in the middle of a place. I don't know. I feel like things might line up like that. A question I have is, why is the Upside Down stuck in time? I am guessing based off of course, I haven't seen the play, which once again I'm gonna say is fucking stupid to make a play based in one place on the other side of the world where very few fans can access it and make it canon to the main storyline of this worldwide show. I don't know what the reason for that is, and it's kind of pissing me off, even though I know it'll be covered in the show. We get all our answers. It's not like we'll be left without answers, blah 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 blah. But it's still like unnecessary, and like I don't know, I don't feel okay about it. But I know the entire plot of the play. I looked up the entire plot of the play going into the show, so I could catch on to like the little Easter eggs as well. So from my understanding and from what I'm guessing, the answer could be Dimension X is something different and Upside Down is something different. And Upside Down was born when like Elle touched the Demogorgon, and it happened the night Will disappeared, which is why Upside Down is only specific to Hawkins, which is why it's stuck in time on that fucking night. But also, I don't think we ever saw those walls around Hawkins that we saw in this season. I have a question about what those walls are. Is that the doorway to where the kids are? Is that a doorway to Dimension X? Like, what is that wall? What is the reason? I feel like no matter how much I theorize, or like I haven't seen most of the theories on season 5 to be honest yet, just haven't had time, and I also didn't want to get myself consumed by it because we had a month long to wait, and it would be hard for me to wait that long. So I was like, I'm just gonna watch the show and I'll watch the occasional reel or whatever, see what people are saying, but not really dive into what people are saying and like what theories people are coming up with, because I don't want it to consume me for an entire month. So I'm not sure what people are saying online, but based on the few things I have seen and based off my own thoughts, I feel like no matter what we come up with, it might still be wrong. It's possible because in volume 2 trailer, we see Dustin talking about how everything they've known about the Upside Down has been completely wrong so far. Now, I don't know if that refers to the fact that Upside Down is not the Dimension X and that kind of a thing, that's gonna come into play, or if it's something else entirely. Oh, yeah, also, initially I had a question about why Vecna is visiting the kids in this form and why this outfit, and eventually I came to the answer that he is just a diva. Another theory I have is that Ted Wheeler dies. That's not a theory. That's I wouldn't care if it happened. Anyway, well, actually, I don't know if the feeling is as strong anymore, but initially, I genuinely was feeling like Robin is gonna die because they're just making her the MVP a little too hard. As much as I love it, I was just like, why? Why are we focusing so much on her? Why is her, if she dies to protect Will or something? I think, like, every fan of Stranger Things overall can agree that Steve and Dustin cannot die, hands down, myself included. We have that in check, yes. That's a condition for sure. However, for me, I can't handle Robin dying either. Please, not Robin, okay? The part of me that's grown up reading books knowing that when a side character gets too much importance, it means they're gonna die, is fearing for her life right now. Another thing I was thinking of is, do you think it's possible that Henry is still inside Vecna as like his own self, who Henry was as a kid, and the version of him that became Vecna once he touched that cave in Arizona? That's what happened in the play. Is it possible that Henry and Vecna are two different identities? If we are able to separate the two, if we're able to awaken the real Henry inside Vecna, that could play our advantage, kind of like a Sebastian situation from the Mortal Instruments series, if you all catch my drift. I don't know how I would feel about that, but I feel like it's very much possible. Oh, another thing I wrote down over here. I'm going through these theories in real time with you guys. My mind back then. We saw Will give Mike a painting that he made for him back in season 4, which involved them fighting a monster, like a dragon monster thing, which was like 3-headed, I think. Do we think that Vecna is prepping the kids for that dragon thing monster? Is what I've written over here. Could be. Like, I feel like every monster so far that we've seen when they play their games or whatever are actual monsters we've come to meet later on. So that monster in the painting that he's made, the dragon, could that come into play? Also, why, like I was talking about earlier, I think like Henry is like prepping these kids for the mind flayer is because the picture that Will drew very much looked like the mind flayer. I think I've seen another tweet talking about how like that the thing he drew really looked like the mind flayer's drawing, and it also to me looked like the drawing we saw when a science teacher, I forgot his name, the goated character, I can't remember his name, Mr. Clark, when he was talking about the wormhole. I think like 5% of me thinks that time travel or some kind of like time warpness could come into play. I won't be surprised by it. I'm not fully sure how I would feel about it. I feel like it would be cool, but at the same time I feel like, you know, it's not something we've had even a hint of discussion of throughout the series. It would kind of feel like it came out of nowhere and was like a last minute grab to create a twist, as opposed to actually being a part of the plot. I'm split on it. It depends. If time travel actually happens in the show, then I think my feelings on it would depend on how they actually proceed with it. But anyway, that wormhole, I feel like this wormhole thing, it can't have been placed just like that. It has to have a reason why they placed that scene in the show. Something. This wormhole thing is important. I just don't know how. I'm not able to place my finger on how exactly, but it is important. Or is it like the walls that he's trying to create are what's keeping, if you penetrate those walls or if you're able to take down those walls, is what will open the wormhole? Is upside down the wormhole from dimension X? Did L trap the mind flayer into a different wormhole, because of which like the kids, siphoning through the kids is a way to like get the mind flayer? Something, I don't know. I'm honestly just thinking out loud right now at this moment. I don't know. I'm sure I had clearer thoughts a month ago when I wrote everything down. Right now everything looks like a scrambled mess. Jonathan dying, I touched on this a little bit before, but I feel like Jonathan could die purely because it seems it's the classic plot of like him having a ring, they're having a tricky relationship, and in the end moment he like sacrifices himself for her, and then she finds the ring later on, and it's one of those situations. It also gives like an entryway for Steve and Nancy to get together because he passes away. But it's a very classic storyline to go through, and I don't know if the Duffers are the kind of people who would choose something as generic as this. They could, and they also could not. You can't really tell with them, to be honest. If he stays alive and he proposes to her, though, I'm not gonna be okay with that. I wouldn't mind if he's like alive, proposes to her, and she rejects him, and they realize they're not really good for each other, they need to take a break. And maybe in 10 years later they want to get together again, sure, go ahead. I really don't care. But at the moment where the relationship is and the kind of people they are to each other, I don't think it's right for them to get married. Ooh, another thing I was wondering was if this frequency, if they can play around with it, could it amplify L's powers? Speaking of amplifying powers, I saw a couple people on Twitter talking about how like Will is more powerful than L now, which bitch, can we just appreciate both of these characters in their own right without having to compare the two of them? I think it mostly comes from these Bilo fans, which are like a plague to the fandom honestly at this point. Will doesn't have his own powers. He's channeling his powers from Vecna whenever he's near him, which is great. It could be an advantage for us, it could also be a disadvantage for us, because do we trust Will fully? We saw what happened in season 2 when he's like connected to the hive mind. He turns on us. He could be a spy. So I honestly don't fully trust Will. I love the character. I love whatever the actor is doing with him, even though I don't like the actor. I don't fully trust Will yet. For a minute there, when Robin was trying to convince Joyce that we should use Will, I was like, do we really want to use Will and increase the bondage of his to the hive mind? Because the more he gets connected to the hive mind, the more we lose him, the more he becomes a spy for him. And also like that little scene when they're in the barn, when like Will and Joyce standing outside, and Joyce tells him we should wear a coat, and he's like, I'm not really cold. And we know the mind flayer likes it cold. I'm just saying, I don't fully trust Will. But anyway, coming back to the point that he was channeling Vecna's powers. Those aren't his own actual powers inherent to him. What he did with them was great. I'm sure we'll find ways to use that against Henry, Vecna, mind flayer, whatever. But Elle is a fucking badass. You've seen the kind of things she's done in the past 4 seasons are incredible, incomparable. Let's not compare the two. I'm also excited to see what things we can see Elle and Kali doing together, especially because Kali's powers are different. If you remember season 2, her powers are not the same as Elle's powers. So Kali can make people like hallucinate and make them see what she wants them to see. That could play in really beautifully, especially if like we get to know through Max or Holly that Vecna has his own fears. He fears the cave where he went into Dimension X from the play that we saw. If Kali can like make him hallucinate about the caves or something, or about Dimension X, it could be a powerful tool for us. We can see Will's connection to the Demogorgons getting more and more intense. Like the first Demogorgon, we didn't see him have as much of a reaction when Karen killed the Demogorgon, but the second Demogorgon, he was feeling the pain of the Demogorgon much more. So I feel like his connection to the hive mind is getting stronger and stronger. I don't know if it's just a proximity thing, but again, it casts a doubt, About the final part, I was like, why did Vecna come to the military base? For vibes? Did he want to intentionally activate Will's powers with rage bait? He just came to surf cunt and left. That's yes to all of that, I think. I also like that Mike was a lot more useful this season. I don't hate Mike. I know everyone hates Mike. I don't particularly favor him either, but I don't hate him either. He unfortunately suffers the main character syndrome, unfortunately, but he's got heart, and he can be useful. He's always been the one to make the plans. I like Mike, sort of. So seeing him be a lot more useful this season was really nice. Seeing the kids that we saw in season 1 grow up and be the protectors of the other younger kids this season was also very heartwarming. I love seeing that. We get to see that from everyone, from Mike, from Lucas, from Max, from Will as well. I love Nancy. I have always loved Nancy. She is a bit of a great character a lot of times, sometimes specifically when it comes to the boys. I think things about her are messy, but I can also like understand, it's not been outrightly portrayed, but I can understand that she's messy in her relationships and the way she comes across to both Steve and Jonathan. I think because she's affected a lot by the way she's viewed her own parents' relationship, perhaps. But apart from like her relationship area, she's a fantastic character, a fantastic actor, I must say. She's such a feminist icon. Everything she's done in this season so far has been absolutely iconic. Love Nancy down. I've talked about this with my friends personally, but I love Stranger Things for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is because we see like people of all age categories come together. kids, teenagers, adults, everyone working together, and the adults don't like minimize what the kids have to say. They don't like treat them like children, they don't treat them as naive, but at the same time they protect them. We just see so many beautiful relationship dynamics throughout the show. So much like, again, like found family, you know, peak found family. And another reason why I love Stranger Things is because the women in the show, we have so many women in the show. We have Joyce, Robin, Nancy, Erica, Elle, Max, Holly now, and like so many others. Every woman in the show is so unique, but at the same time so completely iconic and strong. And I think, like, you know, every time you have an ensemble cast, first of all, you have like barely any women in an ensemble cast. Maybe like 10-20% of an ensemble cast will be women to begin with. We see that time and time again in a lot of different movies, a lot of different shows, happens all the time. And you know, all those women kind of just become like mirrors of each other. They rarely ever stand out in an ensemble cast. However, in Stranger Things, we have so many women, and all of them are such distinct personalities. We don't have like, this woman is strong, independent, she's harsh, cunning, blah 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 blah. This woman is like soft and feminine and petite. Like, you know, we're not boxing them, any of them, into any of these kind of categories. All of them are so distinct, unique, whole within themselves. They're all an example of like feminist icons in their own ways, in their own rights. They're all so powerful, but they're all also still so like, you know, they're the definition of being a powerful female character. Does not have to mean that you are cutthroat and ruthless and unfeeling, you know. They feel everything. And to be able to show so many varieties of that through your female characters is beautiful. But yeah, that's about it. Oh, one last point I forgot to mention. I wrote, why is there a US military base in the Upside Down? Realistically, it makes sense that the US found this thing, this unnatural thing, and they set up a military base over there. Tracks. However, it's just so strange. Like, what happened to all the Demogorgons? What happened to the Upside Down we see right now is very different from the one we saw in season 1. Like, people are able to just walk around freely, interact with everything freely. They have a whole fucking base. How is that base not being attacked? Does Henry not fucking care about this military base in his homeland? I don't particularly mind it, because like any supernatural location or object you come across initially will always be a lot more scary and alien, right? However, as you progress through the story, eventually you'll be a lot more familiar with it. You can toy around with it a lot more, which is what is happening in the show as well, which I like. You know, we're getting to see a different perspective of how we can interact with this place and how we can get a little bit more comfortable with it and challenge it. But the US military just fucking jotting down their whole base over there is just so funny to me. Yeah, whatever, I guess. That's all my thoughts for Stranger Things. I'm so excited for volume 2 to come out tomorrow, and then the finale episode after New Year's. In India, it'll be after New Year's. It'll be on 1st January. So I'm gonna have a great party with my friends and watch the finale with them after, which I'm super excited for. Today is Christmas, so happy Christmas to everyone. Hope we all get to enjoy a really fun and hopefully not very devastating part 2. Tomorrow is gonna be a big day. It's the last 3 episodes before the finale, so I'm sure a lot of big shit will go down. I hope we get a lot of the answers we're looking for, that I'm looking for. I hope some theories come true. I hope some don't. I hope we get to see some new things. I don't always want to have everything figured out as much as I enjoy it sometimes. And I'm just happy to revisit our characters. If you agree with me on anything, if you don't agree with me on anything, if you have your own theories, comment down below. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys next time. I'm editing this video and I just realized I forgot to mention, what the fuck happened to Russia? Whatever the fuck happened to the whole swirling mist that we saw went into them?